Welcome to Disability News and Views. This is the September 2023 episode of Disability News and Views, which is a monthly production created by the City of Boston's Disabilities Commission to educate the public about systemic accessibility and inclusion in the City of Boston. Earlier in the month, Boston Public School students began the 2023-24 school year. And did you know that about 20% of the total Boston Public Schools student population are people with disabilities? There are about 11,000 students in Boston Public Schools special education program. Students and families with disabilities are a large and important part of the Boston Public School community. The City of Boston's Disabilities Commission works to ensure that students and family members with disabilities can access all programs, services, and activities of the City of Boston. We want our viewers to remember that if they encounter disability discrimination or barriers to accessibility and/or inclusion, to contact our office at any time. So, in today's Disability News and Views episode, you're going to have the privilege to hear from Rebecca Grainger, Mayor Wu's Senior Advisor for Youth and Schools, speak with Disabilities Commission Chief of Staff, Andrea Patton, about Boston Public Schools' latest initiatives. But before we get to that, I'm going to check in with Disability News and Views co-host Ken Meyer for our Community Conversation with Ken segment of our show. Today, Ken will be talking with Charlie Kim, who is one of the newest members of the City of Boston Disabilities Commission Advisory Board, a resident of the North End. And with that, Ken, I'm going to kick it over to you to introduce us to Charlie.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Charlie, how you doing?
Great, Ken. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Tell us a little bit about your son. He is involved in SPEDPAC, and tell us, if you would, a little of the history of it and what it is and when and how your son got involved.
Sure. I'm the parent that's involved with SPEDPAC, and it's I am a parent. So SPEDPAC is an acronym for the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and what that is across the state. So within Massachusetts general law, a school committee that runs the public school district has the ability to set a formal PAC, or a parent advisory council, specifically under special education, to help advise and also monitor the district, specifically under special education issues for their children. Excuse me. And so for myself, my youngest daughter, so I have two daughters, both of them proudly are in Boston Public Schools. And my youngest daughter attends the Horace Mann School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So my introduction to Boston Public Schools, and specifically SPEDPAC, was through the school, and then also meeting with parents within the SPEDPAC and the Parent Advisory Council to then learn how to advocate for each other, support each other, and then learn about all the different services and experiences that we have within the school system.
Okay. Does your son enjoy going to school and having the face-to-face contact, or would he like to do what a lot of people are doing, and that is doing it virtually?
So my daughter, she actually loves school. She loves it from the beginning, waking up very early at 6 o'clock in the morning. She gets on the bus at 6:30. So her experience within the school system starts by seeing all of her friends, jumping onto the bus, loving the ride all the way from the North End to the school that is in Alston, and then all the way through her classroom with all of her friends and peers. And so she is not only is considered hard of hearing, she also is in a separate classroom where she gets pulled in and out to receive services. So she is in what is known as kind of a hybrid inclusion environment, where she has separate teachers for certain times of day, and then she's allowed to attend classes with her peers, like in gym class, art class, especially a lot of the STEM classes like science, math, and engineering. So she gets a full gamut of being able to be not only with her peers, but then also with the students, specifically for some of the special services that they need.
Now, how about the special services? Do they, I assume the Boston school system provides interpreters and things like that?
Yes. So at the Horace Mann School specifically, it is the school for the deaf and hard of hearing. So they are known as they are certified dual language program. So when you go there, your primary mode of communication is through ASL or American Sign Language, and then also with spoken English. So all the teachers are certified in American Sign Language or ASL, and so that is specifically what they use. And then when we come as parents, even though we do practice and use ASL, we are offered interpreters when we come in for parent meetings, open houses, and there's always somebody there to help us for ASL. And then they also provide interpreters for other languages to make sure that people have access with other different languages that also then get interpreted into ASL.
Was it difficult for you to learn the sign language?
Yes, yes, because as an adult, learning a new language is always very difficult. But I think the difference is in this type of immersion environment, and the fact that this is the way and mode of communication that we use with our daughter, and also with their school community. It became a lot easier because not only was the school and all of because they do provide ASL classes, it was very welcoming. And at first, it was very intimidating. But once we were at the school, we really embraced the community. We really started to pick up the language very quickly from there. But I will tell you, I move at the speed of my daughter. So when I speak to the principal, I could sing songs to her and do things like hide and seek and talk to her about colors and numbers and all of that. But when we start to get into school policy, I do have to call an interpreter in because it's a little bit of a different level of language comprehension.
And does she have the same interpreters every day or different ones? In other
Yes.
words,
So, yeah.
in
Sorry.
other words, is there one that she'll have for a whole week or different ones every day?
So she has a dedicated, what is known as a one-to-one paraprofessional with her, and we've been very fortunate that her one-to-one that came and was assigned to her through Boston Public Schools has been with her for several years, and so she is fluent in ASL, and she also speaks also, and so she has seen the journey of our daughter, and she is there with her at all times to help her not only with her education and helping her through that, but then also with language interpretation too. But again, she is dedicated to our daughter. So if we ever come and need to attend any classroom items or any open houses, a different interpreter will then be provided to us so that one individual doesn't have to act as the interpreter for all of the different parties. So they make sure that there is a fluid communication between and access for all parties within that conversation.
And how can people join SpedPAC?
Yeah. So this is the really cool thing because we talked about that there are 11,000 parents or 11,000 students, of which there are many different family and caregivers. So once a month, there is a general meeting. And you had asked about virtual, but since the pandemic, the membership has really opened up and allowed more accessibility. So usually at every general meeting once a month on Thursdays, and there's different topics. There's usually over 200 people that join the Zooms, and there are various people from all of the Boston community and Boston Public Schools. There is an elected board that is elected from all the community members within SpedPAC every year. So then there's a board, and then every 2 years, the executive board, which consists of a chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, they rotate every 2 years in order to make sure that everyone's voice is heard and that we keep consistent with policies and procedures. And then every year, once or twice a year, the executive board presents to the school committee to then talk about what the strategic initiatives are to make sure that there is alignment between the school district and also with the Parents Advisory Council.
Well, listen, you're an excellent spokesman. and I'm sure you're doing a wonderful job with your daughter. I wish you all the luck in the world and just continued success. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your.
very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Now let's turn it over to Andrea Patton, who has another interesting and special guest.
Thank you so much, Ken. And thank you, Charlie. That was a really amazing conversation to be able to hear and be a part of. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm back as your interviewer today. My name is Andrea Patton, and I am the uh, Chief of Staff. I don't know why I almost forgot my name there while I'm looking at, or my title while I'm looking at Rebecca's title, our Senior Advisor for Youth and Schools. So Rebecca, welcome to the show. Can you tell us, what does that mean? What does it mean to be the Senior Advisor for Youth and Schools? What is your role? What do you do here?
Sure. Hi, Andrea, and thanks for having me today. So really, I work, well, I'm directly on the mayor's team, and I work closely with anyone who is engaging in work with kids ages 5-8 all the way through graduation and really beyond, probably ages up to 24. But a good chunk of my time is spent with Boston Public Schools, where we've got a couple initiatives that we're working in close partnership on. But the thing that I love about this role is really I get to work across all of the different departments, plus with lots of city partners outside of local government as well.
That's awesome. I love when we are able to work across departments. As everyone who's viewed the show here knows, we work with every department in City Hall, and really love that work. I know one of the big priorities for the mayor's office when it comes to schools is the Green New Deal for Boston Public Schools, and I know you're really involved in that. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the Green New Deal for Boston Public Schools?
Sure. Well, for anyone who is in Boston Public Schools, you know, we all know that we've got a lot of work to do on our physical spaces. And so the Green New Deal is about making a commitment to improving the physical spaces and in Boston Public Schools and making sure that the physical footprint supports both our vision and our ability to support a high quality student experience in Boston Public Schools. And maybe it's helpful to tell a bit about the journey that we've been on and where we are right now. You know, we've been engaging in a series of listening sessions starting last January, where we heard from over 500 people about their experiences in Boston Public Schools. And we took what they shared and created a survey because we wanted to reach even larger numbers of people. And so that survey was, it helped to capture experiences in experience statements. So people could tell us if we heard them right. And those were posted in every school in BPS, and we got over 9,000 responses. And from there, we were able to put those into core priority statements. And so we heard we're talking about students, all different demographic groups, and all across the city. And one of the core priorities that we heard was the need for consistent and high quality academic programs. And that what was highlighted was that includes for students with disabilities and multilingual learners with disabilities. Along with other things, including training and support for educators to serve students with disabilities, and also having outdoor space to learn. And so we took all of those priorities and we put them into a core high quality student experience. And that includes, you know, rigorous and culturally affirming learning experiences, but also wellness and enrichment and supportive networks of adults. And the reason why all of those are important, the other piece of that is the physical spaces that support learning. And that's really where the Green New Deal focuses in on how do we create the physical spaces so that those other buckets of the high quality student experience can be realized and supported.
Thank you for all that background. You know, we here in the Disability Commission are very aware of how the physical space can create a positive experience or not, especially when it comes to folks who have physical disabilities, right? If there are stairs, you can't even get into the space. That's a mark against it being welcoming right there. We also know that for other kinds of disabilities, whether it's the lighting that's important to be able to clearly see ASL, as we were just talking about with Charlie. But what are the other ways that the public schools, or sorry, the public spaces, the physical spaces of these schools feed into that high quality student experience in the work that you're seeing so far working with the community?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple different ways of how we are actualizing that and how we're making sure that that is a key driver for all of the new buildings, renovations, and physical spaces in general in BPS. You know, we're working on a long-term facilities plan, and that has a couple of core pieces. One is the educational specifications, which will be how we think about our educational models and programs for all of our new and renovated buildings. And then another core piece of that are the design standards, which are the technical requirements for building systems. So like the furniture, the materials, and other elements. What both of those pieces do is they help us to make sure that we have key standards for our projects and builds, but also so that we can move the work forward quicker. And I think what's so key about especially the design standards is that it helps us think about the materials and design for that diversity of sensory needs that you were just bringing up. And really, you know, as we're thinking about good design, accessible design is good design, right? If you design so that everyone can be an active part of the community, it means that it is serving everyone better. And so that means that all of the spaces should not only welcome, but actively facilitate all abilities and bodies being able to be in those spaces. And so when you talk about, you know, the sensory needs, like the physical and the auditory and the visual, it's what are the design standards to elevate those needs, and then also being able to be both flexible and responsive to the diversity of learners that we're serving in BPS. You know, actually in one of the listening sessions, we had a community member who was deaf, who was talking about being able to sign in different areas, and how you know, having open spaces and being able to actually see each other's hands was so key, which that both facilitates you know, language diversity, but it also gives, you know, lighting and needs for all students and community members coming in. So I think that the key to this is that what can you know, really harness the learning for one might limit someone else. And so by thinking about the full diversity of our community, we're able to design buildings better. And that's what we're trying to do by having standards.
Thank you. Yeah, those design standards have been really fascinating. Viewers may not know that our office is part of a working group that is reviewing and contributing to those standards, so that, you know, every project moving forward for a BPS school starts from that basic understanding that these are the, you know, the standards that we're starting with. The most inclusive, the most accessible standards are a starting point, not an afterthought. So thank you for explaining that. You know, those inclusive spaces and those physical spaces historically have been kind of a barrier to full inclusion across the district. And I know that's something that the mayor has been focused on and that you've been working on as well. Can you talk a little bit about that commitment to full inclusion that's sort of tied in a little bit with this Green New Deal work, but also other work the schools have been doing?
Yeah, happy to. And in fact, the inclusive education plan is on the verge of coming out. I believe October 18th is when it'll be presented before the school committee. And, you know, the idea behind, and I'll say there is a full academics team and a brand new chief of specialized services in BPS that are working diligently on this. So I appreciate being a partner with the many experts in the district on this. But, the idea of inclusive education is that all students will have access to culturally and linguistically responsive grade level learning experiences. And it also is that students are educated in the least restrictive environment with the appropriate supports, meaning that students with disabilities, and again, bringing in, because I think it's important for people to realize that inclusion embraces all students, so multilingual learners with disabilities, is making sure kids are getting these really rich learning experiences and learning with their peers while receiving the supports they need to be successful. One of the key things that Boston Public Schools is confronting and tackling is the overrepresentation of Black and multilingual learners in special education. And so moving towards a full inclusive district is, truly it is justice work of how do we serve all kids well. And, if I can take a minute and tie this back to the physical spaces, because I think moving towards an inclusive district helps us think so much about how our physical spaces are. Many of our buildings right now are pretty small, and so they can only have single strands, meaning one classroom at each grade level. To really have a fully inclusive community, you need multiple classes at each grade level. It gives you increased flexibility. It allows students to be spread across classrooms to have both the supports and have their needs met. And with the need for more classrooms at each grade level, it means there needs to be enough space in a school to facilitate that. And that's not even taking into account, all of the extra spaces that are also needed to deliver services that kids need, right? And so many other pieces of in a school. And so there are a couple ways for us to think about that. One, it could be through a new build. So if a school can't currently do it, it could be through new buildings, but we know that that takes a really long time, something that we are moving to expedite the process on, but also being realistic, this is going to take us a while to get that physical footprint of the district right. And so, another piece of this could also be bringing school communities together so that then, lower grades can be in one school and upper grades in another, which then allows you to have more classrooms at each grade level. So we'll need to think about the in-betweens to make a fully inclusive district as we're moving towards, new builds and extensive renovations.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's a really great perspective on inclusion. I know we've come a really long way. Commissioner McCosh is the disability commissioner here at City Hall, tells the story of when she first started using a wheelchair, there was one high school in all of Boston Public Schools that would have been able to accommodate her. Not a district that had all of our schools able to be inclusive of someone with a physical disability like that. And so we know that BPS has come a really long way. We also know that there have been a lot of other, plans with lots of big names and, new names. So what is different about the Green New Deal or what makes the Green New Deal unique compared to maybe other processes and plans that people who've been involved in the district for a long time have heard about?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to recognize that, all work builds on the work that comes before it. And so we continue to evolve and learn. So thankful for all of the people who have taken on and tackled this work before. I think what is exciting about this time is that we have a mayor and a superintendent that are heavily aligned, and we have both the will and the resources to move this work forward. We're working in really close partnership. So, there are times where people aren't sure who the mayor's team is and who is BPS and who is PFD because of, Public Facilities Department. I know that we use so many acronyms that, really closely working together on this. I think another piece that's exciting is we are currently engaging in, and there will be community sessions on this as well. So to be looking out for that, of having a rubric that takes in all of the data pieces that we've been gathering. So, every single school has been visited. We know all the physical spaces. A facilities condition assessment has come out, so we know the quality of each of those spaces. And so what a rubric will help us do is both figure out where buildings are currently, what it would mean to actualize that high quality student experience, and then for us to form a system of prioritization so that we can determine the order of investment. And so I feel like the foundational pieces and the supports are coming into place so that we can move this process not only forward, but forward with the urgency that it deserves.
That's really great to hear. I think knowing that the resources are committed, that there will be a public engagement in order to set that prioritization matrix is really important. I know we were really delighted, again, in our office to see that facilities condition assessment. I remember one school that it was 700 pages, and there were pictures of every down to 1-inch lip at the end of a ramp, which is critical if you're trying to use that ramp, and that attention to every little detail that may seem small to someone who's not aware of it. Oh, 1 inch, like that's enough, right? No, that can be huge. And we have pictures of every 1-inch gap just at that one school. So it's been really great to see the attention being paid to those facilities. And it's great really to hear from you today about the commitment and the resources. That's the end of our time, unless there's anything else that you want to add that folks should know, maybe where they can get information about the upcoming community sessions, if they want to come to those.
Yeah, and Andrea, thank you for pointing out how closely your department has been working, because you all have been such core advocates and bringing in the expertise, which I just feel like that's so important, right? To have the variety of perspectives and experts all coming together to build something like this. I don't have the website in front of me, but if you do a search for Green New Deal for BPS, it will pop up. It shows all of the buildings that are currently having renovations and work, as well as upcoming sessions. And we would love to see everybody come out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That is it for our interview. I will turn it over to Colleen to close out this episode.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea and Rebecca. That was really informative. And that does conclude September's edition of Disability News and Views. Till next time.